It should always be a bad time to be a Nazi.
So, we're playing a hardcore game of catch-up tonight. We're supposed to be a little bit of this last week, but I got in a car accident late last week, and then shit kind of hit the fan, and I had to go deal with that. So I'm currently in a friend's car, which is way nicer than mine. And quite frankly,
it's nicer than my car. It's like a more recent version of my car. But yeah, it's also part of the angle for me to get not entirely blown out. I had to lean back, which just makes me look like.
Yeah, it's good. So, we don't have our usual lights. We're using the lights that are in the car, which are really fucking bright.
But it's fine. It's fine. We'll be fine.
It's fine.
You're here for not the lighting.
No.
That's a sentence. Yeah, so right now we're gonna do 3 movies in a row.
Yep, we're gonna talk 3 movies in a row.
Let's start.
I've been busy the past few days just catching up on shit.
Yeah.
So like I saw JoJo on Monday, I saw Lighthouse yesterday, I saw Countdown on Thursday.
Yes.
I was like, all right, let's just fucking do this. So we're gonna start off with the one we liked the most.
Yeah.
Which was JoJo Rabbit.
JoJo Rabbit.
Which was incredible.
That was an amazing movie.
And I loved every second of it.
It's a delight.
And it's everything I wanted it to be and more.
Yeah.
And it's so goddamn good. And it's easily one of the best movies of the year, I think, for me.
Yeah. I remember walking out of the movie thinking that was kind of perfect.
It kind of was.
I can't think of anything that I would really change about the movie. It kind of pulls off everything it tries to do exactly as it wants to.
The satire is so sharp.
Yeah. No,
it's brilliantly sharp. In ways that you don't really realize at first until you stop and think about it later.
Yeah.
And especially one thing I didn't realize until somebody else put, I think, movie about made a video about it, talking about, you realize that it really is just playing up just how childish you really have to be to fall into Nazi propaganda. And I thought that's brilliant messaging.
Yeah. Well, we definitely want to stay spoiler free initially, but I guess we'll move into spoiler territory a little later. We'll let people know.
Okay.
But just straight out the gate, just easily, this is a great movie. It delivers on many emotional beats. It is hilarious. It is cringe-inducing in the ways that you would expect a movie about, kids being Nazis to be. It is emotionally poignant, and it has a couple of moments of actual very intense tension.
I think there are actually quite a few, or at least ones that have emotional renaissance.
Yeah, there's a lot of it hits all the beats it wants to. Mm-hmm. And it does it very well.
Yeah.
And it's believable, and it really does feel like this is what a kid would imagine his imaginary friend Adolf Hitler to be.
Yeah.
But
the way they use that, just to like rewind a little bit there, is the way they use that to really just symbolize the mentality of hate group propaganda.
Yeah.
I thought was really, really smart. That definitely that both uses the whole make Hitler goofy to take away his power thing, while also acknowledging of no, this is just what people in hate groups probably think their leader is, their best friend, the person that is very supportive, and then the more they drift away from the ideology,
or just super cool person.
Yeah, or just super cool person, someone you idolize.
Idolatry,
someone you want to be, who wants to be your friend is totally on your side.
Yeah.
But the more you drift away from the ideology, the more the cracks start to show, and the way that art kind of presents itself, I thought was really, really clever.
I also really liked how weirdly cartoonish of an element Taika Waititi made it.
Yeah, no, he was great.
There's one scene where to exit the room, he doesn't even exit the room, he just jumps out a window.
Flies out the window.
And there's one scene at a swimming pool where he's not even really involved, he's just swimming around and having fun in the middle of all these people, doing weird rehearsals for Nazi shit.
And there's a lot of that in the movie. It just feels even I think what, again, I thought was very clever is all the adults act very much like all the Nazi adults, I should say, act very much like just exactly like his age group. Like Sam Rockwell plays one of the Nazis in this movie.
Sam Rockwell is so good in this.
He is so goddamn good in this, but he has the mentality of a 5-year-old, and it's kind of great.
Not really.
Yes and no. Like, I would argue it kind of does. I mean, like, he's definitely one of the more, like,
We'll get into that.
Yeah, like without going too much into spoilers, like he does kind of have an arc of his own.
Yes.
That is bred from other stuff in there, but there's even some deeper messaging in that, which again we'll talk about. I feel like we have to talk about that.
Absolutely.
But there's even parts where like, and this is like the suit I designed. Notice all the feathers.
Yeah.
And it's like drawn using like something you expect like a 9-year-old to draw, and like just crude sketches. Like, and there's a speaker on the gun that would blast annoying radio at the enemy. And shit like that.
There's some really bizarre humor thrown around.
Or like even like Rebel Wilson, just going like, someone needs to walk the clones.
But what I really found interesting about the way they played that up was the way that Sam Rockwell, from the very start, he's clearly shown as someone who, all fucks are gone. He doesn't care. He basically talks about the fact that, I'm here because I was disgraced in battle and fuck it, I don't care. Like, I'm here to make a difference in the war by teaching you little bastards. So like, it's
in a montage that's very reminiscent of like Moonrise Kingdom, I felt.
Yeah.
Except it's with fucking Nazis.
Yeah.
And it's like, you will learn how to throw knives.
Yeah.
Like, carry your knife on you, they're very expensive.
It's surprising how much of the imagery in the trailer was from the very beginning of the film.
Yeah.
They did a really good job of keeping things kind of a secret and a surprise as they went further on.
True, but that's actually a very good point to bring up, though, because the juxtaposition between like the comedy being present on screen and A, the actual historical context, and B, some of the shit that happens later on really just brings a very stark and startling contrast that they use repeatedly throughout the film.
Yeah.
And to powerful effect. And the movie, like, even though it's like definitely a comedy and satire, the movie never get like it's one movie that it's deliberately designed to be impossible to like appropriate in any kind of way.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. When you have Nazi imagery, one of the things to be careful of is, assuming that everyone sees things the way that you do.
Yeah.
And that was some of the problems with, I feel like Inglourious Bastards rides an interesting line with that.
It does.
Because it does have little moments where it's like, oh yeah, they're kind of glorified, but at the same time, the way it treats that, like, its portrayal of Hitler has no dignity.
No.
At all. No. And, Hans Landa is a really, intense, cool character. He's an excellent villain, very terrifying.
Oh yeah.
And in that way, I guess you could take that and be like, oh, check out this guy. But overall, he does a pretty good job of defanging the whole Nazi thing and making it clear, like, in almost no situation in that movie are they able to be viewed in a positive light.
I think some people have successfully managed to use Londo in that context.
I can see Londo being that, which I think is why in the next movie he made what's his name? Christoph Waltz.
Oh yeah.
He made him like the fucking slave owner murderer. Like, just complete flip side.
Yep.
Yes.
But no, like kind of piggybacking off of that. Like in the case of this movie, like every time you get even remotely comfortable with this kind of fucked up society, it immediately throws something like dark and like, no, these are like, it immediately shatters that illusion.
Oh yeah. No.
And like multiple times, like anytime you like the audience might get remotely comfortable what's going on, I was like, no, now he's gonna kill a fucking bunny, without even thinking twice about it.
Sure.
And it's like in the first 10 minutes. I'm not giving away much.
Yeah. Well, that was it's pretty much in the trailer. It's the fact that they want him to kill a rabbit and he refuses to kill the rabbit, and that's why they call him JoJo Rabbit.
Yeah. But like that's like one of the minor examples, but like that does happen repeatedly through the movie, where it's like anytime you get used to JoJo's like ideology, his world, how he views things.
Not even getting used to that, but getting used to the movie being like a lighthearted or fun affair.
Yes,
because
it does bring you back to reality.
I at no point in the movie was I seeing this as like getting used to his perspective, weird white guy.
Okay, wrong terminology.
No, at no point was I like, oh, I'm getting comfortable with this. Every point that
okay, I said getting used to, not comfortable and used to different things.
Used to, sure, but at no point when this was happening on screen was I like, oh, this is nice. Like, no. This is children being indoctrinated into a death cult. Like,
oh no, like, and don't misinterpret what I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's not all I'm trying to say.
Well, I get that, but I'm saying like I never got used to that.
Okay, fair. Yeah, I see where you're coming from. I guess I mean like the tone. I guess I would say more than
Okay, it's like, lighthearted and fun.
Like I guess like anytime you get used to the tone as like a lighthearted, fun comedy affair, even though like the subject matter is horrific anytime you actually stop and think about it.
Yeah.
Or even if you don't.
I was thinking about it the whole time.
Yeah, I know. It's like, Jesus, these are kids. These are
can't
fucking
escape
kids.
it. Can't escape it. I mean, when you go into JoJo's room and see, like, the swastika on his wall, like...
Yeah.
Or even when they're marching around in their, cute little uniforms and they have the little fucking... The one S. The one lightning bolt instead of the two SS lightning bolts because they're the Hitler Youth. Like, it's pervasive. It's everywhere.
Yep.
Which... it's unsettling. It's continuously unsettling.
Just even like in the most jokey joke moments, he's like, let's be clear here. There is always a dark cloud hanging over everything that's happening. Yeah. For very, very good reason. It very much walks the line of like Mel Brooks satire and the stark reality of of World War II and the Nazi regime.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, you had a point you were gonna make?
No.
Okay, anyway. And
get out of my head, Charles.
Anyway. But yeah, like, no, all the performances are rock solid. Scarlett Johansson's great. She's clearly having a blast with this.
Dude, this is one of the best roles I've seen her in.
Honestly, I agree.
Because it's, generally, a lot of the complaints I see about Scarlett Johansson, aside from, the questionable things she says in real life sometimes.
Or the roles.
Are the fact that most of the roles she's given, she's meant to be kind of stoic.
Yeah.
And she's not meant to emote a lot. And in this movie, she is.
She's given a lot to chew with. That's
she's given a lot to work with. She is this sweet, loving mother who does some silly shit sometimes to play with her son. And, it's just really nice to see her get a role that
she can express herself in.
Well, yeah, that she can work with and actually be like a warm, sweet, loving character.
Yeah.
And she got it, and I love that. I loved her in this movie.
Come to think of it, I don't think we've seen that with her since Her.
I haven't seen that. God, I can't even remember how long. So so that's
that's
cool.
one of my favorite movies.
That was really cool. Sam Rockwell's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Even Alfie Allen as his little sidekick is amazing. Rebel Wilson is finally bearable.
Yeah. Thank you. I was thinking it. You said it.
No, she's perfectly suited for this, and she's just extra enough to be like good. There's no fucking queef jokes in this movie.
I don't know. I think she has one performance coming out later this year. It's going to top it.
What?
Cats. Oh. I think that's going to be her shining moment.
No, there was a moment yesterday. I sent out a tweet yesterday.
I saw that.
It's like, oh God, I forgot there was a Cats movie coming. Oh God. And it happened to me all over again.
I almost sent you a tweet back, just like, isn't it fucking great?
Oh God, I know I'm gonna watch it, and I know I'm gonna love how awful it is, and I know I'm gonna hate myself the whole time, and it's just gonna be an experience. But anyway, yeah. I don't know. I loved this.
Yeah. No. And honestly, like, the weirdest moment just fucking broke me.
Well, we'll get to that.
No, like it's not really giving away much. Like it's not like anything.
Let's not give away anything.
Okay.
Let's just absolutely. This is one of my top movies of the year, if not my top movie.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you.
The only thing that comes close to it, I would say, is The Art of Self-Defense.
Yeah, that was also like, I don't even know.
But that was a much more like muted movie, so I don't know.
Art of Self-Defense is a very, very different film.
Oh, it's a very different movie, but in terms of just the quality of the movie and it being an interesting film that does something different.
Yeah, for sure.
Just the execution of it, I can't remember out of just thinking about the movies I've seen this year, that's the other movie that comes to mind as just being a really weird, unique experience that I really enjoyed. So
yeah, like it's one of those things. Like I think I really have to look back at what movies came out this year. Cause this year has been so fucking long.
Yeah, but the thing about it is that I'm hesitant to give it a 10 out of 10. Mm-hmm. But I can't think of anything to criticize it for. I think
of a lot of deeper themes I want to talk about personally.
Yeah, I mean, to talk about, sure. But in terms of, what I had problems with or problems with the quality of the movie, they're just not there.
Yeah, like, even if there were, I'm not saying there are, I'm saying if there were, like, it doesn't even matter because everything that is supposed to hits with such a great, confident, and just emotional core. And it knows exactly what it's doing. Yeah. And it casts just the right people to do it. Mm-hmm. Like, I think we've talked about Scarlett Johansson and Sam Rockwell. We are not giving this kid enough credit. Like,
this is one of the best fucking child actors I've ever seen. It's kind of amazing.
He's so good. And there's a weird bike parade walking.
Bike party? I didn't know Bike Party was still happening.
Is that a thing?
It was a thing for a very long time. I'm surprised if it still is. I mean, but it looks like it.
It seems that way.
Just bikes with lights and stuff on. Anyway, that's cool. But yeah, I just absolutely highly recommend this movie, 100%, no question. Go see it. It's fantastic.
I agree.
All right. So spoilers free?
Yep, let's do spoilers free.
Spoiler time.
Because we gotta talk about spoilers for this movie.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So let's start at the beginning. Fucking the moment with the grenade.
Oh yeah.
There was a
just
moment
like Bar's like, I'm gonna be the rabbit, like he's all pumped up, like, yeah, let's fucking do this. And Hitler's just, like cheering him on. They're doing like
running with him and all this shit.
And he's like, this is your grenade. And I love the smoke. Everything about the slow-mo shot was perfect.
Yeah.
From grabbing the grenade to like the shot of Sam Rockwell going like looking at his empty hand and then looking back up. And then he throws the grenade and it bounces back.
Bounces off of a tree and lands at his feet. And he does this
shit.
And for a second I thought that was like in his imagination or something, but they actually have a shot where like what's clearly like a dummy, but
like
just
being blown up.
It's like a tiny child-sized dummy, but they blow it up and it just goes poof, and I'm like, whoa!
And just Sam Rockwell goes, don't do that.
Yeah, that's fucking amazing.
And that was like one of the first jokes in the movie too.
It's so good.
Like the one before that was like, I guess kind of foreshadowing, is when they're throwing knives at the tree.
Oh yeah.
And when the knife bounces off and stabs him in the leg.
Yeah, the moment in all the trailers. But yeah, so the movie starts off with him going off to Nazi camp and like getting involved in all these exercises, and from the start you can see the questions in his eyes. All these other kids are very gung-ho about being Nazis, but he doesn't he's not as into it. He's not as down with the whole idea of rushing at his friends and going like with a knife or something. And the other kids there notice, and they choose to pick on him when it comes time to kill the rabbit. And because they know he won't do it, and he's just a little fucking kid. Out of all the kids there, like, he's one of the youngest and tiniest, and it's kind of fucked up. And so he goes off, has his pep talk with Hitler. He comes back, fucks up with a grenade.
Can we just point out how weird it is to say out loud, the little boy had a pep talk with Hitler?
Context of the movie. I don't know.
I just had to point out how weird of a sentence it is to say that.
Just super cash,
But that's like saying I'm gonna get Mickey D's with Mussolini,
What? I got McFascism. Yeah, so this happens, and then he ends up back at home. And that's the whole part of him being at Nazi camp. Like, I really expected there to be more material in the movie than that.
Yeah, you expect the whole movie to take place in like 2 days.
But he's at home with fucking scars on his face and shit, and his mom is fucking amazing because she takes him to the little the Nazi office where Sam Rockwell is now stationed because
he got demoted.
He got JoJo blown up, and and fucking his mom fucking kicks Sam Rockwell in the balls and is like, "You're gonna get him a job here now because it's your fault that he got blown up. You understand?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yes, I get it. I really get it." And so they're trying to find jobs for him.
Yeah.
There's that joke with the clones, which is hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a weird one-off like sci-fi moment where you're like, "What?"
Yeah.
It's
not even clones of who. They don't even show.
No, it's just
it's like they're just clones of some little blonde boy.
Yeah, we're experimenting.
I don't know why.
But yeah, he's sent out to put up propaganda posters and all that stuff. And there's that moment where he's walking with his mom and it's all happy and stuff, and then they come upon the hanged bodies in the square.
Yeah.
Which is just this very sudden, stark moment in the middle of all of this really fun, like lighthearted, silly movie happening.
Comedy and like relationship bonding as because the mother and son have a really good dynamic from beginning to end of this film, and they work so great off each other, and then it's just pulled right back into reality in the horrifying world they live in.
And he asks what they did, and she says what they could.
Yeah.
And from that moment, I knew like that she was a resistance person.
Yeah, I think that part was fairly obvious.
The foreshadowing in this movie is very obvious, but at the same time, it doesn't matter.
There was one moment like the foreshadowing where I should have saw it coming because I was wondering like, okay, what's up with the shoes?
The moment
and
that happened, I was like, oh no.
And then when it all comes back around, it's like, son of a bitch, I should have seen that coming.
I saw that coming the first moment it focused on her shoes.
Yeah, like, and I thought that was
like...
And
I done it a second time, and I'm like, oh god, I'm right.
See, I thought it was probably like some kind of symbolism, because I thought it was like, okay, so like, like, is JoJo the only one that wears laces here kind of thing?
No.
But like, no, that wasn't at all. And when they finally, like, when that finally came full circle, I was like, oh, son of a bitch. Like, on one hand, because like, that was the case, like, I can't remember a movie I've seen recently where I was like this emotionally invested in all the characters.
Fucked me up.
And that was the case. I was like, oh my god. And I was like, it's been a long time since the movie has gotten that reaction out of me. That wasn't the part that broke me. That was part.
I saw it coming, and it does such a good job of making the moment unexpected that
it still catches you off guard.
I gasped out loud and put my hands over my mouth.
Yeah. It's fucking intense.
It's really sad.
And there's such a great escalation.
Yeah.
As JoJo is...
that comes far later in the movie.
It does, yeah. Like, this is getting close to, like, towards the third act. Actually, like, you can argue that's the part that triggers the third act. Mm-hmm. But, like, there is such a great progression between, like, just... the world reflecting JoJo's mindset and the way it's portrayed visually. I thought it's really, really fascinating because, like, it's interior, but the more he starts realizing the world he's in and what he's like, oh, here's what's actually going on.
Yeah, it progresses with the war.
Yeah, like the worse everything becomes because he's suddenly realizes, like, oh, here's like this.
We're jumping the gun a little bit.
Okay,
let's progress a little bit more through the movie.
Okay.
So he goes home. He does this. He's at home early on his own. His mom's not home yet. He discovers the Jewish girl in the attic. Or not the attic, in one of the walls upstairs. And he freaks out, and she threatens him.
Yeah.
She basically physically threatens him on a level where he knows that he's not in a good position, and he knows that if he exposes her, then his mom is going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
So he's left at this impasse. So he decides that he's going to begrudgingly... He has a little conversation with his friends at the Nazi office where he's like, oh, how would someone go about spotting a Jew? And they say they should write a book about it. And he says, I'm going to write that book. So he goes and he starts talking to her about what Jews are like. And
she kind of goes along with it.
She goes along with it just to fuck with him. Yeah. She's like, oh yeah, I don't even remember the things that she said, but they were
like
just...
some of the cases like, where are your horns? Oh, they haven't grown in yet.
Yeah, yeah.
Like shit like
it's like
that.
They grow in when I turn 21 or some shit. Like, just the kind of things that someone who is just making up stereotypes about something would make up, and they're just so absurd and silly.
Or other pharaohs like, we can read each other's minds. Like, can you read our minds? Like, no, their brains are too thick.
Yeah.
Their skulls are too thick.
Yeah. Nazi skulls are too thick for us to read. It's like, all right.
Well played.
So there's a lot of this back and forth. It's nice. This basically alternates between him going out to do his job and having conversations with people and talking to his mom, and then going and interacting with her. And he, of course, is really pissed off at his mom for harboring a Jew, and I just feel weird saying a Jew. Like, it doesn't feel right.
You could say Jewish person.
I know, that's generally how I go, but like they say a Jew in the movie, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go with Jewish person.
Just go with Jewish person. Like, I when I wrote the mouse video, I made sure, like, I was very clear about that. I was like, nope, yeah. I am not even risking making this mistake.
Yeah, no, well, that's the thing. Like, I started off quoting the movie, and then I just kept doing it in the nomenclature of the movie, and I'm like, it's a Nazi movie. I shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
You should never want to copy the Nazis.
I wasn't. I was quoting it. It's the difficulties
Unless
of
you're
reviewing.
on YouTube, apparently.
The difficulties of reviewing. Look, I'm playing through Wolfenstein 2 again right now, so
it is very cathartic.
It's fine.
In that way.
I've been blowing Nazis to bits with double shotguns for the past 3 days, and it's been lovely.
And just watching Hitler piss himself.
That's.
Well, you said again. I mean,
yes, but I mean, not everybody. You get
Wolfenstein 2's been out for like 5 years.
2 years.
Has it only been 2 years?
Yes.
You should have played it by now.
Play it if you haven't. You do get to see Old Man Hitler, and it's hilarious. But so anyway, she starts feeding him all this weird stories about Jewish people and, like, you know, the things that they do, and it alternates between those things. And there's the dinner scene where he's mad at his mom for you know, harboring an enemy of the state.
Yeah, or enemy of the state also works.
Okay.
Yep.
Focus on the Jewish thing, Michael. Sure.
Oh, I'm the bad guy now. No, you're the one using Nazi words a few minutes ago. It's terminology. I mean,
hey, I didn't go that far. It was just questionable. But there's just one of my favorite scenes in the movie is this scene where he's mad at her, and he misses his dad, and she.
Oh, is it where she?
Yeah, she goes to the fireplace and takes like a bunch of the soot and smears it across her face to be like a beard.
Yeah.
And then she just pretends to be his dad and does this voice, and like, you know, she yells at him initially because she's fed up. You know, she's a single mom. She's drinking a lot,
and it's one of those scenes that makes you really hard to stay mad at Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, and she's under a lot of stress, and she's been drinking. So initially she does this as a thing where she's like, she yells at him, and then she sees how upset he is. Mm-hmm. And you see the moment on her face where she realizes what she's doing and that she doesn't want to be doing this.
Yeah.
And she goes off to the side and has a conversation with herself, as herself and her dad, and his dad. And as his dad comes back and is like, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have yelled at you," and
take care of my Rosie.
Yeah, and it turns into this really sweet scene where they bond and they dance, and it's just really sweet.
It is.
God, you've seen it more recently than I have, so do you want to walk through some of it? Because it's kind of mixing together in my head.
No, that's fair. Like, that happens fairly early on in the movie.
Okay,
I want to say it's like after like the second interaction.
Yeah.
JoJo has with, what's her name? Greta? No, that's not it.
I'll look it up and keep talking.
All right. So this is fairly early. That was fairly early on in the movie. And then I think that's when. Oh God, I don't remember the sequential events necessarily, but I think it was like after that. Then they like have the bike ride. That's when the bike ride scene happens. When they're at they're at the river,
and that was really cute,
and like there was a lot of bonding that way. And then I think that was around the time we saw the haying in the streets.
Yeah, something like that.
That's what I think anyway. But yeah, anyway, so the movie progresses and the war's
Elsa.
Elsa. I was close. Yes, both ends with A.
What a name.
Elsa?
No, the girl's name is Thomasin McKenzie.
That is an amazing name.
That is a fantastic name.
Like, never change that, ever.
Yeah.
Thomasin McKenzie.
Oh, she's 19.
Huh.
Wow. I really thought she was like 15.
That's what I probably forgot. We forgot about Nathan, I think his name was.
Right, Nathan, her like, boyfriend who's off somewhere, fighting in the resistance. And how old is JoJo? Like 6? 9? No, he's 10. Like 10.
Okay, somewhere in that range. Either way,
12 or something.
Just to be a vindictive asshole. Elsa tells JoJo about like her boyfriend Nathan, who is like off in Paris or something like that, and JoJo's being a dick, just writes like a fake letter that's obviously fake, and is like, oh, I found this letter from Nathan, I'm gonna read it to you now, and it's like, I'm fat and stupid and ugly now, and I don't want to marry you anymore. I also have nothing else going on, and that's like the first part that like really humanizes, or at least that's the part that like kind of starts breaking down his own biases. And that goes into something I want to talk about, I think, is the most important thing about this film. I think it's the most important point.
Yeah.
And I know this is kind of jumping around a little bit, but I do think this is the part that stuck out to me the strongest. And it also ties back into my what I had to say about my last, my mouthpiece.
Yeah.
Is the fact that I think an important part to emphasize about, like, propaganda and hate groups and all of that is how much, like, how easy it is to convince children more than anyone else.
Yeah, no, that's
mentality.
I mean, that's why that's why kids get raised on this stuff. That's why a lot of the logic that comes from it is so simplistic and basic.
Yeah, and it's childish, and that's one thing I made a point to emphasize. Is like Nazism at its core is an extremely childish power fantasy bullshit.
Well, it takes somebody. I feel like that's a double-edged sword, because on one side it's not a double-edged sword. It's a little more complicated than that, I think.
I'm sure
because it is a childish ideology in the sense that it's a power fantasy, and it's easy to convince kids that, you know, oh, they're demons and they do this weird stuff and they have tails and horns and but when you have the other side of it, you really do have a society of people who is disenfranchised and feels powerless and feels like they've had something taken from them, and they want to blame somebody for it, and they put that onto something. And that side isn't really addressed so much in this movie. This is really about the other side, how kids would get indoctrinated into it. And I don't think that it's... Not that I don't think it's fair, it's more that it's underselling the seriousness of how this can get through to, you know, full-grown adults. Because I've seen completely, you know, people that were pretty rational, intelligent, well-read people go down the Trump hole. And it's a bizarre thing to witness, and you can find stories of that everywhere.
I think an important part to add on to that, though, and that's the second point I want to make here, is the fact that, I personally like children are the easiest to indoctrinate into these cults, because they believe whatever they're told, like, or at least what their parents believe. That's like the ideology you follow. I think an important part to emphasize, though, is that the easiest place to deprogram that bias is also in childhood. Yeah. And I think it's, and especially as part where, like, if there's any room for change, any room for growth, hold on, let me finish, because I know, I'm not saying you can't change as an adult. I'm not saying that. Because it's possible. It's extremely difficult, but it's possible. Yeah. But I think, in my opinion, like I'm personally not in the mindset. I know it's a bit of a controversial opinion of focusing our attention on deprogramming the most extreme people in that group.
Sure, fine.
Okay, you look like you're jumping the bits here.
Yes, I think that there's something very important that this movie touches on that is not a matter of being a child or not, and that is getting to know somebody that is of the other side, so to speak.
And that is a very
is the real deprogramming thing, because one of my favorite, most controversial figures is a guy named Daryl Davis. Are you aware of this guy?
I'm not.
Yeah, so Daryl Davis, he is the focus of a documentary called Accidental Courtesy, and I think he has a TED Talk too. There have been news reports about him. He is a very polarizing figure. There are people who simply do not accept what he does, and that is valid. But at the same time, I do see the value in what he does. And what he does is he is a black man who goes around being nice to and making friends with members of the KKK.
Okay, I have heard of this guy.
You've heard of him. You
Yes.
don't know him by name, though.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. You may have heard of this guy, but I urge you to watch the documentary with him, because there are people who have problems with what he does, but when you see how effective it can be, when you see the fact that he's turned something like over 30 KKK members over, because he was just nice to them and he made friends with them. And there's this really weird interview footage where he's sitting next to a KKK member, and they're saying, like, would you invite a black person to your wedding? And they're like, no, never. And it's like, would you invite Daryl to your wedding? He's like, well, yeah, it's Daryl. it's such a weird thing to see, but it's that kind of friendship that slowly turns people over. And when you look at groups like Life After Hate, there's this one guy who does a really good TED Talk about how he used to be a white nationalist. He used to be a white power guy. He actually used to be in a white power punk rock group, and he really hates the fact that his music is still out there as an anthem for people, because he got turned at a young age, and slowly over time, he had to deal with the fact that he had this thing that he would do in private, but in public he wouldn't be able to back it up. He would have conversations with people that he supposedly wanted to exterminate, and he had to hide it, and it tore his life apart, it tore his marriage apart, and eventually he saw the light and dedicated his life to helping others do so. And one of the things that he brings up is how there was a guy that he talked to who really hated Muslims, and he'd never spoken to a Muslim person before. So he called his local mosque and asked, hey, I've got this guy. Would you be willing to sit down for lunch? And they go and get lunch, and they've been having lunch every week since. And they're friends now. And that guy left his white power groups and all that ideology behind. Like, the way to deprogram people is to humanize the people that they don't know anything about. Because if you are ready to believe anything about these people, whether they're, and by these people I mean like anybody that they have preconceptions about, any kind of prejudice, they think that, they have certain motivations, certain goals, certain ways that they live, certain things they do with their life that are harmful to other people, when most of the time they just want to fucking exist and be who they are and be with people that they love. And it's I think that the slow deprogramming of JoJo over the course of this movie is a fascinating look inside of what that can do. And I like that.
And I for the most part agree. I think for me personally, me personally, like, I agree with everything you said. Like, for me, it's like, I think the big thing for me is like, while I love it when the cases like that where people can change and people do learn and people are exposed to things that they think they hate and turns out they just don't understand it. I am all for that. I guess for me, it's like, I don't like the idea of bending over backwards with the expectation that everybody will do that.
Well, of course.
And I think that's where I draw a line.
Give me 1 second.
Oh, I'm gonna.
All right, we're back.
All
right. So, you were talking about how not everyone can be turned with this kind of thing.
Okay, and I think that's the point I want to make a large bit. That's why I felt it was important to frame this from the eyes of a child, is the fact that, in my personal opinion, the larger focus, not saying anyone can't be converted or
they have to be willing to have the conversation first.
But I think more for me is like, I think it's important. I think there's an importance to me to educate the next generation, so that way they can grow past the things that led to that kind of indoctrination to begin with. And that's the larger point I was trying to make.
And I do find the timeliness of this movie really interesting. Because the way that it works in the context of, current events and everything, the idea of, I'm straight out gonna say it, kids who are into, Trump and the MAGA shit are basically into it for the same reasons that, you know, the Hitler Youth was into it.
Yeah.
It's very much the same fucking thing.
Yeah,
a
very similar mentality.
That kind of hatred, that kind of, you know, oh yeah, it's fun to, it's basically bullying for fun in a, you know, racist way. In a way that's full of prejudice, and ways that can turn out really fucking terrifying and horrible later. And I like that this movie does take the steps of being like, well, how do you know any of this stuff is true?
Yeah,
this is ridiculous.
There was a challenging to the core, like their core beliefs, and I think that's what I would like. Again, I feel like there are definitely more people that are more vulnerable than others in terms of who that can affect. There are plenty of other people that will just rely on bad faith arguments to make the point, like drive the point.
But I think the point is that this movie works on multiple levels.
It does,
sense.
And I think that actually
not just the level of this.
That does kind of carry into Sam Rockwell's character, I think.
Yes.
That plays with a similar theme in a very interesting way.
Yes. Let's move further into the movie before we hit on that, though.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. They did the bike ride. They saw the people hanging. They do the back and forth with him going to his job and then talking to the Nazis at the office and coming back, and he has that really he has that adorable scene with the little robot outfit.
Yeah.
I forget what's his friend's name. The kid with the thick glasses, the little chubby one.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. He was adorable, too.
No, he is the best. Every time he came on screen, I was like, oh. And their friendship is so wholesome and adorable. They really do love each other. Like, as really, like, it's so cute.
There is an unabashed, like, oh Yorkie. My God, you are my friend.
Yeah.
Yorkie, is that his name?
His name's Yorkie.
Oh, he does look like a puppy dog.
He's so fucking cute. It's hilarious. But his whole approach to everything is so bumbling, but just good-natured at the same time.
Unwavering support.
Yeah.
No matter what JoJo does or says, like, I have a Jew in my, like, I'm quoting so I can say in this case.
Just go for it, yeah.
All right, I managed to trap a Jew, and like, oh, be careful.
That sounds dangerous.
Oh, that sounds dangerous.
Or it gets to the point in the movie where he's like, I have a girlfriend, but there's one problem. She's Jewish, and he's like, I don't know. I think there are more difficult things that you could overcome in a relationship or something like that.
And he goes like, it could be worse. Could be the Russians.
Yeah, something like that.
It's like, we need to stop Russians from screwing our dogs, JoJo.
Something like that. Yeah. No, it's really great. So they get closer. They have the whole thing with Nathan where he makes up the letter and just to be mean to her, and actually makes her cry, and he feels bad about it immediately. And
then
makes another letter. Makes a new letter. He's like, I've changed my mind about all. It's so like, silly and
even
childish.
though I am still a loser and I have nothing going on.
Yeah, right. So anyway, this goes back and forth, and it gets to the point of the movie where, for me, the most tense moment of the film, which was, when the inspectors come to the door.
Yeah, which, by the way, great comedic moment with the rule of threes. If you know what I'm talking about.
Which one?
It's the part where they all start saluting each other over and over again.
Yes.
Which I'm not going to do it on camera.
No.
Because I do not need that used against me in the near future.
Absolutely. Just hearing the words Heil Hitler repeated back and forth, because basically when they say hi to each other, they say that as their greeting, but each one of them says it to each person.
Yeah.
So every time a new person comes in, you hear it like 10 times.
And the first one's like, okay, this joke's going on a little too long.
Yeah.
The second time they do it, it's like, okay, that's pretty funny. And then the third time, we're like, oh, God damn it, you win movie. You made that phrase funny.
Well, that's the thing. The third time it happened, I was not laughing.
Really?
I was fucking disturbed.
Maybe I'm forgetting the context. Wasn't that the part when Sam Rockwell's character came in?
They come in... No.
Oh, no. Okay, I know what you're talking about. Okay, that was different.
They come in and they start inspecting the house, and Elsa hides.
Right. Okay. Right.
And And JoJo is terrified. He doesn't, he's alone at home. He doesn't know where his mom is, and it's the middle of the day, and Elsa makes some kind of noise upstairs, and they go to look for her, and she basically shows up dressed in his dead sister's clothes.
Yeah.
And the way she's going to play it is to pretend that she's his dead sister. And nobody knows that his sister's dead.
Yeah.
Nobody really knows about her. So they try to play this off. And so in the context of the third time, it's her saying it to these soldiers.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you. That scene was horrifying. I think for me it was more like the...
You see this look on her face as she's trying to go through it while not reacting to how sickening what she's doing is.
Yeah, no,
it is an incredibly subtle piece of acting.
Okay, for reference, for clarification purposes, because I realized that, oh yeah, that scene where the Jewish girl has to say Heil Hitler, yeah, that scene's hilarious. Not what I'm saying. I was more talking about like...
Someone's gonna cut that.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna edit that.
It's like context, people, god damn it.
Yeah.
No, it's a part when like Sam Rocco's like, what are you guys doing? It's like, well, he came in here, we're all hitting each other, and then like that's like the real scene.
That's pretty funny
in that regard. Not that scene. No, I agree. Yeah. That scene was horrifying.
But it's this whole thing where it's incredibly tense, and they ask for her papers, and she doesn't know where her papers are, and she just goes with it. She's like, sure, I'll find them, and she goes over to the desk and just happens to find, Elsa's passport or whatever in one of the drawers. And she takes and she hands, you see Sam Rockwell, who knows what's going on.
Yeah.
And you can tell he knows what's going on. And that's the moment that you suddenly realize that he's not a Nazi. And he asks for the passport, and he asks her to verify her birth date. And she gives her birth date, and he's like, she's right. And she gives it back. And the Nazis all leave, and she's like, I was wrong.
Yeah, and he just protected her.
He covered for us.
But the question is, here's my question about Sam Rocco's character. Is like, I'm not even sure if it was like, as where you're describing it as a Nazi, so much as he cares about JoJo, and he knows that if he gives her up, JoJo's going to pay the price with her. So I was wondering if that was really an act of altruism, or so much as protecting the kid he cared about.
The impression that I get from his character is that he was also low-key part of the resistance.
See, the interpretation I got, and I could be wrong on this.
Sure.
It's like I was getting the impressions like he was in a secret relationship with his assistant.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
No, but that's why.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if that makes him part of the resistance so much as...
No, because as a gay man...
Yeah.
Why would he go with the people that want to exterminate him? That means he's he's outside of their brainwashing. He understands that what's going on is wrong, and he's not going to be there to actually, he's going to do his job to cover, but he's going to be drunk all the time to cover why he's doing such a terrible job all the time, and he's putting in the minimum effort. And throughout the whole movie, he's ridiculing what's going on. He's like, yeah, they're going in the swimming pool with their equipment, in case they have to, fight in a swimming pool sometime.
I can see what you're saying there.
Hang on.
Okay.
And then as it moves on through the movie, there are different bits of evidence. One, as badass as JoJo's mom is, the way that she kicks him in the balls and talks to him implies a further familiarity. And on top of that, at the very end, we'll get to his final lines, but when he's talking about JoJo's mom, it seems in earnest. It doesn't seem to be something where he's saying it just to, be nice to JoJo. It really does feel like he's trying to say something. He means what he's saying about JoJo's mother.
I can definitely see where you're coming from that. I think there was definitely a valid argument to be made for that theory.
Yeah.
It's not what I got out of it personally.
Yeah.
I definitely see where you're coming from. You can make a strong argument for that. From my perspective, the way I saw it is because there are people there are women in misogynistic followings.
Oh, absolutely.
People that are people in groups that are deliberately against their other kind of people is very, very, is unfortunately common. They're in the minority, obviously, in each group that that population exists in, but it does exist. So I interpret it more as he protects JoJo because even though he's still with the Nazi party, he still has, there's a little more moral gray area. I don't think that means he's not say part of the resistance, but I think he has a different perspective that allows him to apply a bit more mercy in that regards, or a bit more understanding to JoJo's perspective. I don't think it necessarily equates to him, that equates to him being a part of the resistance, because as I said, he could just be another big kid who just wants to be part of a club.
I don't know if he's necessarily a part of it, but I also don't think that he's against it.
I will agree with.
I know that he is, at the very least, not down with the Nazis in general. Mm-hmm. He doesn't think they're effective. He doesn't like their ideology. He thinks it's all just a stupid fucking thing, and that they're destined to lose because they should. And when it comes around to the point of him, like, he clearly knows that Scarlett Johansson is part of a resistance. Mm-hmm. He knows this, and he can't really do anything about it.
Well, that actually brings up a very interesting parallel then between those two characters and why they kind of get along so well in the movie. Is because at the end of the day, they're both just big kids who just want to dress in a fancy uniform and be part of a club, and be respected within those clubs. And I think, like, whether Sam Rockwell's character really agrees with that ideology or not, he still very clearly wants to be respected in his field. He still wants to be a part of.
I don't know if he does.
Well, he makes repeated references to how he's feeling wasted in his current position, and how he wants to be more respected. The whole thing with the feathery suits and all that kind of stuff.
How earnest is that?
That's up for debate, but
exactly.
That's my interpretation of the text.
Sure. I think it's worth another watch.
Okay.
Now that you know what happens.
I mean,
I'd be down to watch it again. It's a good movie.
I'm seeing my girlfriend this weekend.
Oh, well, great. There you go. So more context.
So I'll
follow-up review.
I'll watch it again and see if that context feels. Yeah. But for me personally, my interpretation is I think, even if Sam Rockwell was part of the resistance, I think it was an interesting idea of, even though he was someone who it was definitely more malleable to change his perspective on things and felt more open to different ideas, at the end of the day, he still kind of made his bed and he had to lie in it.
No, I think he knows that.
Yeah, and I agree. I think he knew it too, especially at the very end. I think that's just I did this, I accept what I've done, and I have to face the consequences.
Yeah.
You're still young. You still have an opportunity.
You shouldn't have to.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to. You have an opportunity to get away from this. Away from this.
So they go through this whole crazy scene, and he feels really connected to Elsa and everything, and that's great. And he goes, and we have the scene where he goes and he buys bread, and he's happy because he's managed to get away with this, and he might be able to just, live with her in his house and not have it be such a scary thing. And they have the whole butterflies in the stomach to symbolize being in love and everything. And he sees a little blue butterfly flying on the road, and he follows it.
Yeah.
And he follows it, and he walks, and you see the butterfly, and it's nice. And then it pans up to his face,
and it's just the shoes.
You see his mother's feet as she's hanging next to him.
And I think what's so fascinating about that too is and I think this is a brilliant.
Oh, it still fucks me up.
No, yeah, it's fucked up, and I can respect the imagery.
No, I respect it too. I'm just saying, it's still it's still hitting me emotionally.
There's something very interesting about the human psychology and feet, not in a sexual context, although there is that too. But it's more I remember when I took anatomy.
Is this going to be the second, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood 2?
No, God no. Oh God, I hope not. But when I took anatomy class in college, we had to work with cadavers.
Sure.
And a lot of times, the parts that I found most fascinating is we cover the hands, the face, and we also cover the feet, because those are the parts that I guess distinguish us the most as human.
Yeah.
So I think it's very interesting idea to use that particular, I guess, identifier, a unique personal identifier, as a means of conveying human connection.
Well, I mean, her feet are covered. The real thing is the fact that you've seen her shoes.
Well, that's what I mean. Because they identified it as that person. When you see those feet, you immediately connect it with that person.
Well, yes, but that's it's such an incredibly graceful way to do that.
Yeah.
Because they don't show her face.
It's very subtle.
They don't.
And it's very effective.
They don't make it a grotesque moment.
Because you don't need it to. It doesn't need to.
They focus purely on the sheer devastation that it has on this kid. And it is an absolutely heartbreaking scene. He acts his fucking heart out. And that's when he finally, one of her shoelaces is untied. And one of the things through the whole movie is that he's never been able to tie his shoes. And he ties her one untied shoe and just hugs her legs really, really hard. And it's just this really incredibly devastating emotional moment in the movie. And I didn't cry, but I was just sitting there shocked. And I'd seen it coming the whole movie. I'd seen it coming. I knew it had to happen. It was the only way that it could happen. But when it happened, I was still shaken to my core. And it was a feeling that stayed with me. After I left the movie, that was one of the things about it. There was a profound sadness that stuck with me after I left the film. And it was really, really... it was incredibly effective, and it was executed with really, really... It was done really deftly.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I give this movie a lot of credit for. The fact that it managed to pull that off the way that it did. That was not an easy moment to do, especially telegraphed so far ahead of time.
Yeah.
And it still did it, and it still hit like a fucking bag of bricks when it did. And, that's the moment where you know that there is no way ever that JoJo can be a Nazi.
Yep.
You get to see what they do personalized outside of the Jewish girl that he's becoming friends with and falling in love with and really, really caring for. They took his mom. That's it. So from that point, he goes back, and you have this really, what I thought was also an amazing scene, where he takes out his knife and he stabs Elsa.
Yeah.
He's just a little boy, and the knife only goes in a little bit.
It's like his last act.
She bleeds a little bit, but she notices him coming.
Yeah.
And in that moment, there's this the strength of the acting in this is really astonishing, because there's this moment where not only, like, she has a moment of confusion and then realizes why JoJo's mom hasn't come home yet and why nobody knew where she was.
Yeah.
And she sees his pain and she accepts it. And she lets him stab her. And she understands what he's going through, and I think she also understands that this is the end of it.
Yeah, it seemed like the last act of desperation, like clinging on to an ideology you built your identity around, and then realizing it's all for nothing.
Yeah, like this is the last moment that he could blame, the Jew in his attic, as opposed to the Nazis that made that person's existence such an illegal thing. And yeah, it's just such an incredibly powerful moment. And then from that point, it's just it's the eve of the war, isn't it? It's basically Yeah, but I mean, like you were saying, that's when
leads
Germany
into
descends into absolute chaos.
As like
the
the
next
U.S.
day
starts invading and like everyone's kind of making their last stand. There's that great subtle little joke they threw in there.
Which one?
It was like the payoff to the earlier joke, like when Sam Rockwell standing in the office, like, I meant we needed dogs.
Oh yeah,
actual German shepherds.
It's kind of
like this weird bunch of like just shepherds with like sheep clothes and sticks.
Yeah.
And later on, like at the very end of the battle, you see like the slow motion shot of like all this carnage and death.
The German shepherds are on the front lines,
and
with
just
the guns
the German shepherds are all there with guns.
Genius moment.
And it's like, and then like
Rebel Wilson putting a grenade in the back of a kid's pants and
it's like go
pulling
hug
the
them.
thing, going, go hug that American over there. There you go. And I'm like, oh God.
Yeah, I was like, oh Jesus.
I was like, well, that's a Nazi.
Yeah.
Then you have the moment with Sam Rockwell in slow motion in his fucking amazing outfit that he'd been working on.
Which is copyrighted, which means you can't copy it.
with the cigarette, just like.
And he owned it, man.
Yeah,
like Sam Rockwell doesn't get nearly
shot.
enough credit as he deserves as an actor.
Yeah, amazing shot. So that was great. But it's basically this last run through the streets. He encounters Yorkie again a couple times, and it's adorable each time. But you get to see JoJo faced with the reality of war.
Yeah.
The reality of seeing kids, sent into, the meat grinder.
Because as much as JoJo talks about throughout the movie, he's never actually had to see it until this moment.
Well, there was that one moment where they're biking back and they see that one truck that has the soldiers in the back.
That's true, yeah.
And they're all beaten up, and that's kind of this moment of reality injected into it, like, this is not what they say it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, as it goes through this whole thing, they lose, and JoJo gets captured and sent over to where Sam Rockwell is. Yeah. And that's where Sam Rockwell does the thing where he's like, your mother was a good person, like a really good person.
Yeah.
Go take care of your sister. And he just yanks the Nazi uniform off of JoJo and shoves him away and calls him a fucking Jew. And JoJo gets pushed out of there by Americans, and it's another somewhat heartbreaking moment where he's kicking and screaming for Sam Rockwell, because on a certain level that's like the only adult he has left.
Yep.
And then you just hear the sound of gunshots as they execute him.
Yeah.
And JoJo runs.
But and that's the thing I liked about it too, is like I kind of liked that they didn't let him off the hook, because I felt like that would have been too easy.
No, that too.
Yeah,
that too.
And I think that's because one thing for redemptive character arc stuff like that, but also saying like, yeah, but you still worked in the Nazi Party, so did horrible things. There has to be consequences for that. It can't be just, oh, I was a Nazi, but I got better, and now I'm good.
I get that, but at the same time as like, it would have been acceptable to have him carted away as a prisoner of war.
There is that too. But I think,
they really wanted to nail it home that like JoJo was about to die.
Yeah.
And Sam Rockwell deliberately
did one last good thing, basically.
Yeah. That's the thing I love about his character, is that he's a fucking mess. I don't know if he's drinking just because of being demoted, or if he's drinking because he's gay in the Nazi regime and hiding it, maybe having to be closeted that hard. And maybe what happened before was a result of him also drinking. There's all kinds of different headcanon you can make up for this. Mm-hmm. But the simple fact of the matter is that he wasn't, he didn't really believe in the Nazis. Mm-hmm. And regardless of that, he still knew his fate. Mm-hmm. As a Nazi.
Yeah, he knew he wasn't going to get,
he knew it was all doomed.
Yeah.
The whole movie, he has the approach of someone who knows he's doomed, and the movement is doomed. And that's another really great moment. And the rest of the movie is just him going back to the house, and I feel like the details from this point don't really matter as much.
No. But I do want to talk about the part that actually
what part fucked you up?
The part that completely fucked me up and caught me completely off guard wasn't anything that actually happened in the movie, and it was something like I was I was felt all the highs and lows of the part that just like made me burst into tears. Was at the very, very end, like when the screen goes black and then a quote comes on the screen.
Oh.
Yeah, that part.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I was not expecting this, and I've never seen this quote before, so when I saw it, it fucking broke me.
Yeah.
And I immediately
get it?
I immediately looked it up.
Good.
Because I was like, I want to remember this.
Because I missed it. I want that.
I immediately looked it up. The minute I left here, it's like, that's the first thing I did is I Googled the quote. It's like, I want to remember this.
Yeah.
Because this is the case of exactly what I need to read, exactly when I need to read it.
Yeah, send it to me.
It just said, like, let everything happen to you, beauty and terror, just keep going, no feeling is final. And when I saw that, I was like, that was when I started turning, like,
yeah, no, it's because that's another thing about the movie. It leaves you feeling like knotted up in a way.
Yeah,
and in a weird way, that quote is its own release.
And like the funny part about that was like I immediately felt better about like crying because of this quote, because the woman next to me also burst into tears. Yeah. And like I know like the woman's like, "Oh, are you okay?" And I'm like, "No." Are you? I'm like, neither of us are okay.
Oh, that's cool though.
But that was the part of like, that's what, like, after all of that, that was the part that is like, okay, that did it. God damn it.
Yeah.
now I'm crying in the movie theater. Yeah. Like kind of like on one hand, that many times that's happened.
Wow. All right.
I think it was like this, her, Inside Out, and A Monster Calls.
A Monster Calls got you?
That's because that was around the time I knew a kid that died of cancer.
Oh, okay.
Very, very recently.
All right.
Up to that point. So that movie still has a personal connection with me in that way.
Okay. Oh, I guess I have to see it.
Have you ever seen that one?
No.
I really like that one. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I really, really like that one.
I really like the author.
Okay, then you probably like the movie.
I read his trilogy of God, I forget what it was called, but The Knife of Never Letting Go was one of the books, and that's also being made into a trilogy, so that's going to be cool.
That was another case of a very complex topic told through the eyes of a child, and I think it really benefited from that. Well,
interestingly, that the book trilogy I'm talking about also deals with some very blatant, like, Nazi parallels. So it's pretty interesting. But
and that's that was the part, that was JoJo Rabbit. It's one of the best movies of the year.
Yeah,
and you should go watch it. I mean, granted,
absolutely astonishing.
I assume you've made it this far. I'm assuming you've already seen the movie.
Yeah, I mean, we spoiled everything, but yeah.
Even then, you still should go watch it anyway.
Yeah, it's a really, really, really good movie. It manages to be funny, and it manages to hit the powerful, sad moments as well. And I know that there are some people who have issues with its mixture of lighthearted and serious, but I think that it nails it.
I think it does too. I think it uses humor to what's the word I'm looking for? Diffuse, and so that way the more serious parts hit you harder.
Yeah, but at the same time, as you said, like, I think that it does a really good job of bringing in the serious moments at points where, you know, you kind of need a jolt back to, like, oh yeah.
Yeah, hey, we're still in World War II. It's still Nazi Germany.
This is not just some kid's happy, fun little self-discovery story. There's still a world going on outside of this.
Well, I'm, like, trying to fuck up my car.
What are you doing?
I don't know what I'm doing.
Stop it.
I'm trying.
It's fine. But yeah. That's JoJo Rabbit.
So let's go talk about the shittier movies.
Oh boy. All right.
Part 2. All right. Take 5.